evening, everyone, and welcome to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of race number 9 of season 57 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. This is basically the appetizer. We're setting the table up for the scenarios of who's going to be eligible to get into a playoff position next week. The final race of the regular season. Here tonight, though, drivers would like to be able to avoid the situation of having to have a last-minute performance to get one of those playoff spots. They could do it here tonight, potentially with a checkered flag. I'm Seth Cole, being joined soon by broadcast colleague Michael Norman as we're set for another 66 laps of racing here from the Talladega Superspeedway. 34 drivers going to roll off the grid here tonight. And we've said it week after week, we feel the aggressiveness kicking up, the anticipation of these drivers ramping up, and we've seen it on the racetrack, and we've felt the atmosphere here as well as soon as these drivers take the green flag. We're going to be giving your scenarios coming into tonight of who our drivers are already that have locked up playoff positions, drivers that are in the hunt, drivers right now that are sitting in playoff positions via points. We'll be covering all that during the course of this race, and also taking a look at the bracket series as it currently runs. Maybe more so here tonight, we'll be looking more on the losers side of the bracket.
Drivers, start your engines!
Happening here this evening on the winner's side, but we'll get to all that in just a few moments as we take a look and see how the Lotto Q has stacked these drivers up on pit road for tonight's starting lineup. It's apropos that the number 1 truck of Jason Scheck's going to start in first, and the number 2 truck of Hank Middleton will be rolling off in second. Very interesting how that ended up working out. Row 2 is going to find Mark Paglia and Jeff Crivello. Josh Metallic, Brian Lavelle, they're in row 3. Kyle Lawson, he's in the 7th position alongside of Joe DeSpirito. They share row 4. Rodney Sowens and Grant Wesley, the defending champion, they are going to make up the top 10. Not sure what's going on here on the initial start, but we'll figure that out as we go along. Looks like these drivers are coming up getting their spots back as things were a little staggered leaving pit road. Dropping outside the top 10, row 6 going to find Wiley Coate and Bob Seminara, Jeremy Jeffries, Nathan Balser, they're in row 7. David Lawson, former winner this season, he's going to be 15th alongside of Jessica Shelton in row 8, row 9, Chris Emery and Tom Dixon. Milt Surratt and Ken Roberts complete the top 20. Row 11 is going to find John Godfrey and Tim Nosker. Row 12, Terry Bombard, Donnie Garrett. Richard Martin shares row 13 with Bobby Farrell. Brian Schilling's back in row 14. He is with Glenn Harris. Top 30 going to be completed by Bernie Mobbs and Robbie Nisus. And 31st, Bob Dixon. 32nd, Cy Jones. Chuck McClure, who last week picked up his 2nd win on the season, only multi-time winner so far here in season 57. He's all the way back in the 33rd position, and Bob Sire making his first start on the year. He is going to be in the 34th position. Shotgun on the field here tonight. Ace truck makes the left-hand turn to pit road, and it's time to go racing here in the penultimate race of the regular season. Will we have another multi-time winner join Chuck McClure? Will a driver get their first win on the season? Only time will tell, and Talladega will not reveal its secrets until the checkered flag waves. Jason Scheck is going to bring us down, and the green flag is in the air here at Dega. Inside line, holding its ground down the back straightaway. That's pretty rare to see. Usually, oh, Hank Middleton, contact with Mark Paglia. Now you got the 97 of Kyle Lawson trying to hold it on that inside line. Now Paglia going to jump up there in front of the 2 of Middleton. So they get that sorted out. And they are going to actually charge the outside of Brian Schilling. But I was going to mention before we had that contact, the inside line was actually holding its own. down the back straightaway. Normally we see drivers on the inside. They'll jump immediately off turn 2 up to that middle lane. Schilling decided not to do that. He and Paglia were making some pretty good speed on that inside line. Man, this front couple of rows, they're looking a little sketchier in the early going. Ryan, make that Jason check. He was really tight on the inside line there, as was Kyle Lawson. We've already seen some contact exchange between the 28 and the 2, but look how quickly that changed. Now they're drafting partners on that outside line. Paglia might be clear as we've got a caution. Caution out here on lap number 2. First caution of the day, frozen fields. You see everybody spreading out, giving room, as several probably going to start throwing in the clutch as soon as they cross the start-finish line. And Mark Paglia was ahead by about half a truck length when that caution came out, so he will be the race leader here under pacing. Who did the caution come out for? It appears the 77 of Donnie Garrett was definitely involved. A lot of damage on both the right front and the left rear of his Chevy Silverado. May have been the only one, but then again, moderate damage. We're not always able to tell exactly who was involved unless the damage is super extensive or we see black smoke trailing from behind. And I don't see anybody, at least here, that look like they've got any major damage. Let's see if it was just the 77 of Donnie Garrett that was involved here for the first caution of the day, or were there a couple of others that got bits and pieces of it? This must have been over in turn 3, timing of the yellow, and indeed it was. And oh, looks like we might have had some connection problems for the 77. This reminds me of a wreck that Wayne Pribnow had near the beginning of the season. Watch here, stay with our camera as it tries to follow the 77. He's going to blink out right there. Reappears in front of the 92 of Bobby Farrell, and then next time he appears, he's up and into the catch fence. I did not see anybody else spin out. Apparently Farrell did not get run over or get spun. But we got away with a single truck incident, which if I recall correctly, when Wayne Pribnow had his same incident over in that same corner, I believe he was the only truck that was involved in the wreck. Let's now follow the replay with the 92 of Bobby Farrell. Oh man, Bernie Mobbs just barely got down below him. Had to get 2 left sides on the apron, but if he hadn't, he probably would have been back to Bobby Farrell. He probably would have had a lot more trucks involved. We dodged a bullet right there. Driver that'll give us a good look at what went down would be that STP Dodge Ram of Bob Dixon, who's running a few trucks behind. Take a look at this. Don't want to see torn up race trucks here in the early stages of a super speedway race, especially at the point of the season that we're at now, with so much on the line for so many drivers, an opportunity of being able to battle in the postseason for the championship in the playoffs. The caution is out for the first time tonight. Mark Paglia did not come to pit road. Like the top 13 drivers elected to stay out. See if any of them decide to come to pit road here under the second lap of pacing. A couple of indicators there. Jason Scheck down below the yellow line. Looks like he's coming to pit lane from what would be the second position. Jeff Crivello, late pull onto pit road as well. Looks like Paglia, Middleton, Brian Lavelle that is, David Lawson, Nathan Balser should be our top 5. Then Emery, McClure, Schilling, Jones, and Dixon I think are going to be our top 10 when we go back green. I didn't see any of the drivers from the latter half of the top 10 head for pit road. And as I look back there, well, couple of them might have dove onto pit road. I don't see Cy Jones there. I think he might have actually come to pit lane. Bob Sire, I think, also did come to pit road also. So the first driver that came to pit road and left was Rodney Sullins, and it looks like he will be in that final 10th position. So we saw Kyle Lawson make his debut last week. David Lawson is that yellow truck on the apron. David, a former winner from a couple of weeks ago, but he needs pretty much a miracle right now, I think, to be able to get up inside of the top 20 in the point standings for a playoff spot. David comes into this race currently 33rd in points. And if I can do the quick calculations in my head, he is a total of 78 points behind 20th in the standings, right now held by Hank Middleton. That's a lot of points that he needs to pick up there. We're gonna take a quick commercial break here. Being told we might have some audio things that need to be taken care of, so you're not gonna miss a thing. We're gonna go FRN side by side, and we will be back here for the restart. Don't go anywhere. We welcome you back here to Talladega Super Speedway. Drivers getting lined up here for the restart. Mark Paglia and Hank Middleton are going to be the front row. Brian Lavelle, David Lawson, row 2. Nathan Balser is going to complete the top 5. Let's talk about the scenario there for the 079, winner of the season opener. Needs to be in the top 20 for his win to count towards a playoff position. Right now, 24th in points, and he is a total of 16 points behind the cut line, so that is doable. Mentioned about that 70-some-odd point gap, 76 points, I believe it was, for David Lawson, that he has to overcome in 3 races. Obviously, that's going to be well, not insurmountable, but it is, I guess, possible, but it's going to be very, very difficult in 2 races. Looks like we got Michael Norman here now. Michael, first caution of the day. We've seen this so many times. They get the green flag to start the race. We see them get aggressive in the early going. Then a caution comes out, and it's like everybody takes a step back and says, okay, we got a long ways to go. Let's simmer down here.
Yeah, and it usually happens when it starts out that early, but hopefully we'll see them slow down here, take it one lap at a time, but still just as exciting as always.
Boy, the 043 of Brian Lavelle, he did not get going, and that stacked up that entire inside line. We know the inside line has problems off of turn 2. That just is not going to help them in terms of momentum here.
Absolutely not.
Paglia realized that. He was smart. He jumped up to that middle line before they even got to turn 2, and that's why he's out in front of Hank Middleton, rather, in that 2 truck. These two have seemed to form a bit of an alliance here. I know it's early on in the race, but they got together. door to door through 1 and 2, or make that 3 and 4 rather, on the first lap. Got themselves nose to tail, and they've not really left each other since. And when we get to this point of the season, there are drivers that have a shot of making their way into the playoffs with a win. And usually, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. In this case, the driver that I'm battling for a playoff position might just be the guy I have to use to keep myself in contention, and then I'll settle the 1v1 battle with him later on. Now, we did see the 54 of Robbie Nices. He ended up getting a...
So, you know, I was totally answering your question, but apparently my mic was muted.
Nice. I'm sure that it was...
and I had it planned out, thought out, and everything.
you want to say it now?
Yeah. It's hard, you know, hard to focus on a race within the race when you pretty much... You're focused on trying to get up to the front, positioning yourself. You know, it's a chess match at high speed. You want to position yourself at the right place at the right time. So that whole, you know, the bracket series, yeah, that's fun. But I think that finishing well is a little bit more on the mind than it is to figure out where that one person is on the racetrack.
Well, the 52 of Chris Emery, he keeps peeking like he wants to go somewhere. He's doing it again there. Blue truck on that outside line. Glenn Harris jumping up there with him, trying to make something happen in that third line as the top 4 in the middle group, they get single filed out. David Lawson and Joe DeSpirito now going to get ahead of Brian Lavelle. Grant Wesley looking to do the same. I was going to mention Robbie Nices. We saw him get a lap back. He was a free pass truck there under that caution, and apparently he lost a couple of laps, might have missed the start, and therefore ended up being 2 laps down when that caution came out. He is now the only truck 1 lap down. Surprisingly, Donnie Garrett, despite we saw him going up and over in the catch fence there with his connection problems in turn 3, he's still on the racetrack, is still on the lead lap, though I'd be very surprised if that truck is up to speed. So might be just feeling it's early on. We may see a couple more cautions, a couple more opportunities for torn up race trucks, and an opportunity to pick up some more spots rather than just DNFing it in the early going in the 34th position.
And every lap counts points wise, so.
And Donnie came into this race 8th in the point standings too. So if he's obviously at this point in time not going to win, you want to do everything in your power to preserve a spot inside the top 10 in points. Because oh my gosh, that was nearly a wreck there. Brian Lavelle coming down to John Godfrey, but you don't
Gilbert, oh, there's the wreck. Big
oh,
one.
wow, is that Jason Scheck that caught some air there in the 1 truck? No caution.
Oh, it was only a 1-car incident, and it happened off the track.
The blowover took place below the yellow line, so no caution coming out for the airborne spam machine.
Ooh, and look who's trying to get the lead.
Oh, now the caution's out.
Oh, there's another wreck in turn 4.
Oh,
Ryan Schilling, Jeremy Jeffries, Donnie Garrett.
Oh, there's more. There's a couple of trucks I can't even see that are down by the guardrail there.
Richard Martin, the 7 of Cy Jones.
Oh, DeMar's done. Black smoke pouring from beneath that STP Chevy Camaro. Big wreck there. Jeremy Jeffries, I saw, was involved in the 8. Oh, looks like the 97. Kyle Lawson making his 2nd start on the season, like he was collected up in it.
I may have prematurely called the big one for a single car spin,
yeah.
And then the big one happened.
Boy, I'll tell you who was very happy to see that caution was Jason Scheck. Just mere moments after he was spun around, had his back tires off the ground. Caution comes out, saves him from going a lap down. Let's go back, look at both incidents. Let's start with the 1 truck. This did not bring out the yellow flag, but certainly was a wild ride nonetheless. To get some help from, looks like Bob Sire in the 27.
Yeah, that was definitely crazy.
Yeah, Sire, that Harley Davidson Chevrolet gets the apron. We already know the trucks push up on that inside line, and now that 1 truck comes back down to rest. Then further up, Where does this start? Oh, it starts with Cy Jones and Jeremy Jeffries, and oh my gosh, there were a lot more drivers involved than I originally thought. Jeff Crivello I saw was involved, Ken Roberts. Oh my gosh, that's Kyle Lawson's 97, tumbling, barrel rolling after the splitter caught the infield grass.
Yeah, that's the worst part about, you know, the way these trucks are designed. When you get the front splitter dug into the ground, that's what happens.
We're going to be doing a lot of calculations next week, but I feel we're going to be doing a lot of calculations this week because I'm seeing a lot of drivers right now that were collected up in this incident. Don't know how badly they were involved, but a lot of drivers that were either inside the top 10 in points or just around that cut line coming into this race. I believe in the last 2 weeks, Michael, we've seen positions change inside of the top 10, but really only inside the top 10. Nobody has moved in. Nobody has fallen outside the top 10 in points. The way things are looking right now, we could have some new faces inside the top 10 in points and a couple of old faces maybe on the outside looking in going into next week.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of super speedway racing is
Or the
it's
curse.
a blessing and a curse. You know, it's one or the other for you. You either have a really good day or you have a really terrible day. And, you know, if you have more terrible days than good days, then you're going to watch yourself free fall in the points that way. And honestly, there's really not much you can do but being in the right place at the right time or being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Glenn Harris, Terry Bombard, Bob Dixon, add them to the list of drivers involved. And we're going to go on board with the Batmobile, Tom Dixon, because he did a heck of a job getting through all this. He was running back behind this lead pack, which you talk about the blessing and the curse. This is the blessing side of it, being able to get on the brakes quickly enough and maneuver his way through with a lot of trucks coming up and down the banking. Look at the smoke up ahead. He's slowing. Watch how he cuts his way through, just avoids Brian Schilling, then back up to the right to avoid Glenn Harris. And just like that, he goes from 33rd up to around the 25th, 24th position.
All the cars that made it through made their pit stops and are now up here and catching back up with the pack, getting ready for the lights to go out on the pace car.
Caution, big break not only for Jason Scheck, but also for Robbie Nices, because, as mentioned, he missed 2 laps at the start, got one of them back with the first yellow, and now he'll get the second one back here with this caution, so he should be back on the lead lap. Tough break for Kyle Lawson. Saw him running strong up inside the top 10 for a good portion of last week's race. He, through the random qualifying, was up inside of the top 5 in the early going of this one, but like he is going to be the first one out of this evening's race after that wild barrel roll there on the inside of 3 and 4, and he'll get credited for the 34th position. Richard Martin right now still scored as running, though he has lost a lap. Let's see if the 43 is back out there. Yes, he is. Roof damage and all, you can see how just above the driver area of that cockpit, the roof is bowed in. That car or truck certainly going to be off the pace. But again, too, I mean, I know Halloween's approaching, and I think we're going to be seeing here tonight, even if you're involved in a wreck, there's going to be a bunch of skeleton trucks because, again, as mentioned, you look at the situation there for Demar. He comes into this race currently situated in the 19th position in the point standings. He still has a shot in 2 races to point his way in. You got to get every point available at this point in time. You cannot throw out the white flag of surrender because, again, as I was going to mention before we ended up having that wreck there on the back straightaway, the last thing you want to do in a series that revolves around running a super speedway week after week after week, you do not want to go into one of the most unpredictable racing styles there is on this sim in a must-win situation. You just can't put that pressure on yourself.
No, you really can't. And, you know, to even think about that is just insane. You know, you can't come into a super speedway with a mindset of, wanting to, you can come in thinking, oh, I'm going to win this race. It's going to be, I'm going to get up there, I'm going to lead every lap. No, you can't do that because it's too unpredictable.
Robbie Nices go around, get his lap back, so he'll be back on the lead lap. Also saw David Lawson from the lead get the bonus point for the lap led, dive onto pit lane, so that turns the field over into the hands of Grant Wesley and Joe DeSpirito. Wesley, the defending champion, DeSpirito, multi-time former champion. Real quickly, want to give it the top 10, the point stands coming into this race, because we've already seen some scenarios of drivers inside the top 10 getting involved in at least one of the two opening wrecks here tonight. McClure, two-time winner, picked up that second victory on the season last week, holds a 25-point lead over Rodney Sullins. Josh Metallic is third, 27 points out. Jeremy Jeffries, we just saw him involved in that last wreck. He's fourth in points. Brian Schilling, we saw him involved in that last wreck. He's right now actually tied for fourth with Jeremy Jeffries. Sixth is Joe DeSpirito, Bob Seminara. He was involved in that last wreck. He's seventh. Donnie Garrett, who brought out the first caution, eighth. And then Jessica Shelton and Tim Knopsker right now in the 9th and 10th positions. So right now, big question marks over Donnie Garrett with the damage he sustained, and just how badly mangled are the 8, 4, and 712, who we know got bits and pieces of that last wreck over there in 3 and 4.
Yeah, it's every little bit is, every little bit of damage is something here. But these trucks, like we've talked about before, Seth, they're very durable. So even that little bit of damage, you could still find yourself running up there pretty good, even without the drafting help.
Also noticing a couple of drivers not in the field here tonight. I'm going to just double check, make sure that I'm not saying something that's not true, but I did not see on the grid the 22 of Greg Palmer or the 00 of Kelly Causey. And I'll tell you why that's important, because those two drivers came into this race in 12th and 13th in points. Tonight would have had a shot of maybe pointing their way up inside of the top 10, missing out on that opportunity here.
Yeah, it's just one of those nights. You never know what can happen here.
Green flag back in the air. Total of 51 laps to go here. Long ways still to go, as we've already been under the caution flag twice here this evening. Grant Wesley jumps up to that middle groove. Hank Middleton says thank you very much, leaving the door open on the bottom, and he's got a big push from Metallic, who's got a big push in turn from Chuck McClure. I looked at the grid coming into tonight, saw the fact that McClure was starting back in the 33rd position out of 34 trucks, and my first initial thought was, he won't be there long. We've seen this so many times where the 17 will get put towards the back in random qualifying draws, and it only takes him about 6-7 laps. He's up inside the top 5.
Yep, pretty much. You got some of these drivers who really know how to get through the field here, and it's all about, it's one of the things you always tell us about. It's about using the momentum that you have in going through this field.
Have to be able to read the draft, read where the momentum is. Ooh, that was close off a turn too. Middleton pushing up, as we know the trucks do on that inside line, almost making contact with Grant Wesley, as now the momentum shifts to that middle line, and Wesley will be clear for the lead going into turn 3. And going to be a lot of fun to watch Chuck McClure here tonight. Already locked in with his 2 victories, but now eyeing the next prize, which is winning the regular season championship, which gives you an extra bonus in terms of points when the playoff standings are reformatted. And so, comes down to crunch time at the end of the race, which is more important to him, preserving those points, preserving that points gap, or getting that third checkered flag on the season. We'll maybe see that scenario play out here in this one, as look at some of the drivers we got up here at the front right now. Grant Wesley and Joe DeSpirito, a couple of former winners from this season, already locked into the playoffs with where they're situated in points. But you've got Wiley Coate, one of the few Dodgers in the field, right there in 3rd place, and Rodney Sullins there in the 38. It was interesting when I talked with Rodney last week after his podium finish. He says, it's been a long time since we've earned a victory. And, a lot of people will say, well, he was in the Final Four last year. he ended up winning a race. Well, people have to remember, the race that he won, he crossed the line in second. Chuck McClure crossed the line in first, but got a post-race penalty, which then gave the win to Rodney Sullins. So Rodney, while I'm certain he was more than willing to take that playoff position with that victory, he wants to go out and feel like there's a win that he's earned by keeping everyone at bay and being that first truck back to the checkered flag. I found that very interesting there for driver 38.
Yeah, but every driver doesn't want to get a win handed to him. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's the pleasure and the satisfaction you get of actually being first across the line is way better than a day later when you're gifted the win. So I can definitely understand that statement from him.
Tough break for Richard Martin. It's like he went out there, tried to log some laps, see what his truck was able to do. We knew that truck was obviously not going to be up to speed. It was trailing smoke after leaving the incident. It had roof damage when he left pit road. He's taken it to the garage here. He'll finish in 33rd, so that will put Richard Martin, without a doubt, in a must-win situation next week if he's going to make his way into the playoffs here in season 57. A couple of other drivers that have now made their way a little bit closer up here towards the front of the field. The 28 of Mark Paglia. Mark coming into this race currently in the 22nd position in points, so trying to at least get himself inside the top 20, and right behind him, the 48, Jessica Shelton, who's currently 9th in the point standings, right around that cut line of being able to advance in on points. Right now she's holding down that 6th position behind the 28.
And Jess hasn't really been having the best of luck lately. She can find herself up towards the front and then, get shuffled back in the last couple of laps, so Jessica just trying to avoid all the wrecks and stay in the right place at the right time.
079, Nathan Balser, right now holding down the 8th position, just behind the 92 of Bobby Farrell. Bobby Farrell right now 28th in the point standings. He is not necessarily in a must-win situation here tonight, but if he can at least get himself within striking distance of the top 20 heading into next week, he will be in a must-win situation in the regular season finale. And we're starting to see a couple of drivers that I was looking for and hadn't yet seen make their way to the front start to do so. Just outside the top 10, you've got their former winner Tim Nofsker in the 088, 10th in the point standings coming into this race. Now he's already got that victory, he's already locked in, but we saw how last season Grant Wesley had a victory during the regular season, but didn't really have to rely on it because despite missing the first 2-3 races of the season, he made his way up inside the top 10 in points, which was the criteria to get him into the playoffs. If you're Tim Nofsker and you're that 10th position in the point standings, that give you a little bit of leeway here to be a little bit more aggressive because if I end up maybe wrecking out on this thing while trying to go for the win, I've still got that victory to fall back on, and it's very unlikely I'm going to fall outside the top 20 in overall standings.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more impressed on the fact that Grant Wesley just once again up here. It's like, what is this, the sixth race in a row that he's definitely led laps in?
I'll check that one for you here in just a moment.
I believe he's made every start so far?
He has,
and in every start, I believe he's led a lap.
Take a look at that real quickly for you here.
Not too many drivers have done that this season. Led a lap in every single one of their races.
There's a couple of races, if I recall correctly, that he led the most laps and dominated a few weeks ago, leading, 40 some odd laps of the 66. So here we go. To answer your question, in the last 8 starts here this season, Grant Wesley has been out in front in 6 of them, and he's led the most laps in 2 of them. Amazingly enough, talk about him being up front, he has not led a lap in the last 2 races so far this season.
Interesting. As we see the inside lane trying to come up here now, not too many cars or trucks down there, but I see Jessica Shelton leading that inside lane.
Yeah, Shelton jumped down there through the tri-oval, was trying to make a move on Mark Paglia for 5th. She's now been picked out by Hank Middleton, and now side by side for 6th place with the 92 of Bobby Farrell at McDonald's Ford F-Series in that middle line. And look at this, something going on in the 3rd lane, little 2-truck tandem with Chuck McClure and Tim Nofsker. don't necessarily think that's going to work. They're going to need more numbers up there, and doesn't look like
I don't know.
anybody's really.
Let's say, are you sure about that, Seth? We've seen 2 cars get up to the front before doing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you think about it too, there's a lot of checkup that takes place when they line up in the inside and middle line. So if you are just a 2-truck tandem on the outside line and don't have to check up for anybody, I guess it's possible for you to be able to move your way up towards the front, but we saw that dissipate very quickly. McClure got down to the middle line. Nofsker not so lucky. Let's see if the 088 tucks in front of the 17 here. Yes, he will. Oh, Miltserrat! John Godfrey, they made contact. And Godfrey's the one that has to back out of it. He's going to lose spots, but that was very nearly caution number 3 right there.
Gilbert Godfrey? I have to make that joke at least once.
I haven't made the reference yet, and you've made it twice tonight. It's like you want that.
I have to make it, but I have to make it at least once.
Like you want to lie on the tracks and let the train run you over or something. I don't know.
Choo-choo.
Back up towards the front. Here's the 18 of David Lawson, that bright yellow truck. That, my eyes might be deceiving me. Is that Metallica on the front of that 18, I think? I think that's a Metallica sponsorship. Yes, it is. Metallica and M&M's. Interesting combination. I mean, if you think about it, Michael, Metallica and M&M's, you know what that is, right?
I do not.
That's rock candy.
Why did I ask?
Anywho.
I swear, you have the best dad jokes of any commentator.
Yeah. I will take that moniker. Top
And we're not
6.
even halfway through this race yet.
So you're saying there's a chance that I might have a better joke by the end of the night?
No, there's a chance I might secretly be the only one to leave this booth later.
Only if you're going for takeout.
Andy Foxley Bottle Series fries.
Yes. Nobody will get that reference. But,
Nobody.
But an amazing callback. Well, Nate Balser, he got stuck in the sucker hole. Got moved back to around the 15th, 16th position, as now what was a inside and extreme outside line now looks like it might become the bottom in the middle. No, guess not. Josh Metallic going to stay on that outside line with Lawson, Tim Nofsker, and Chuck McClure. Can't seem to really get organized on that inside line at all. Now Bobby Farrell falling back, and that's just going to play into the hands of the 39 and everybody else on that outside line.
I don't know. The 28 went to the inside. Now here comes the entire. They're going to leave the 38 in a sucker hole.
Rodney Sullins all of a sudden going to the back. So Nate Balser, Bobby Farrell, Rodney Sullins all getting left out to dry in the last couple of laps. And I wonder, with the fact that we've now seen Wesley, DeSpirito, Wiley Coat jump to that inside line, we've got to be getting pretty close here then to the window opening up for when these drivers will have to start making green flag pit stops. And we have seen season after season around this portion of the year, when a playoff spot is on the line, pit road can sometimes be the weight that tips the scale into whether you're making it or not. And even as early as race 9, I know that there's going to be a lot of scenarios we'll follow next week, but don't take for granted the fact that your championship hopes could end here tonight, depending on what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So we might see this might be one of the few races of the year where we see it be where a lot of people be very, very cautious.
Last week, I think there were only 1 or 2 incidents that occurred on pit road, and that was during the cycle of 2 rounds of green flag pit stops. But we start getting closer towards the end of the regular season, and drivers try and step just a little bit further over the edge, and that's when we start to see the mistakes made. So we'll see if these drivers will be able to get onto pit lane in an orderly fashion, much like they did last week, or will we end up seeing a couple of drivers have to mount some comebacks in the second half of this race. Pretty soon, I think we're going to start to see the radios lighting up, the hands out the window, as I think calculated they should be on pit road in the next 2 to 3 laps.
That outside lane almost got turned down to the inside lane there for a second.
Double wide all the way back there. How about the one of Jason Scheck? We saw him airborne off of turn 2 just prior to the second caution coming out, and he is right now the 6th truck on that outside line. So obviously a harmless blowover, if there is such a thing, and able to still be up here competing at the front.
Well, he also didn't fully flip. His back end just kind of got up in the air.
I'd honestly be surprised if that truck got any damage. Knowing how moderate damage works, he didn't make contact with any other car. He didn't hit the wall. Just simply had the back end of the truck go up in the air. I don't think that truck would have received any damage for that.
This might be a 2-stop race from here if they stay green. If they start coming down between that 33, 34, 20 laps from now, that's going to be about... So it should be about a 1-stop race.
And I think I'm starting to see the hands out the window. Here we go. Everybody going to be collectively holding their breath, hoping that they are able to hit the right braking zone, be out of everyone's way, not get run over, not run each other over. Who makes the dive this time? It's the 88 of Wesley. Oh, and they wrecked. Oh, Ken Roberts across the nose of Robbie Nisus. I think that might bring out a caution.
No, well, caution.
No oncoming traffic. No oncoming traffic. If there were cars that were behind the 055, the caution would have come out, since that was up on the racing surface, but because there was no oncoming trucks, there will not be a yellow flag. That's going to be a tough break there for Ken Roberts, who's going to lose a lot of track position, based on the fact especially he's trying to get that thing refired back up to speed and didn't even make it onto pit road. He's got to make another lap all by himself. Here's the rest of the field. I think they're coming down this time, including Metallic, Lawson, Nofsker.
That was a lot of cars coming down this time.
Back there. Was that Godfrey, I believe?
They made it. They made it onto pit road.
They all made it onto pit road. A good dozen, more than a dozen onto pit lane. Very organized. There's Ken Roberts. Fortunately, he had enough fuel in the tank to be able to make it another lap around. Imagine if he had been on fumes. Grant
Wesley had such a good, amazing pit stop. He is so far out ahead, he's by himself, and that's not a good thing.
Not good. Birito and Coate, their nose to tail. They'll be catching him very quickly.
Oh, he's got to come back down pit road.
Oh. Potential penalty for the 88. I've not yet seen a black flag on my telemetry, but obviously must have had something there.
Oh, look at this coming out of pit road here.
Birito and Coate, they've picked up Shelton and Jeffries, so a 4-car pack here. Let's see if they're going to be the top 4 when this cycles around. There's still a couple of drivers, I think, up ahead that are merging onto the back straightaway.
And I think they're going to be up to speed before... I mean, they're 10 miles an hour slower right now, but...
Oh, I'm being told the 8 of Jeremy Jeffries has received a black flag penalty. So we're going to see him on pit road once again, having to serve that.
And
there he is. Yep, just now diving onto pit lane. Chris Emery is trying to clear Tim Nofsker, not going to be able to do it. This right here is your battle for the race lead after everything is cycled around. Emery at least got that lap lead, so a bonus point for the 52. But Nofsker is going to take the top position with help from Josh Metallic. Rodney Sullins in the 38. Too fast on pit road. He'll have to come to pit lane this time. And he would have cycled around in, it looks like, around the 9th or 10th position. That's a lot of drivers, Michael, that have done this for a long time, week after week, and still we see how the human element comes into play, making those costly mistakes. As there you see the 38 of Sullins, top 3 finish last week, coming down pit road to the attention of his crew. Looks like maybe the 143 of Bob Dixon may have also received a penalty, as that was his second time on pit lane.
Yeah, and sometimes it happens. You know, you're not everybody is perfect.
So who was all of that? That was Wesley, Dixon, Jeffries, Sullins. That's a lot of drivers right there that we're probably going to be talking about next week when the checkered flag waves as playoff contenders. I guess maybe better to get the black flag out of the way here during the regular season than during the playoffs when it really matters the most, but at the same time, doesn't matter what race it is, what point of the season, you don't want to be throwing away a potential checkered flag, especially when we were only in the first half of this race. I guess the good news is for a couple of these guys, the fact that it is still slightly early on. There is the possibility a caution could come out, save them from going a lap down. They can get back into contention, but we've seen many times where we'll have a few cautions in the early going and then we don't see one for the rest of the race.
Yep, exactly. So, and like we said before, with that pit stop, if we stay green, these cars have got to make one more pit stop before the end.
Well, it is looking like it's definitely going to be a must-win situation, I do believe, next week. I don't know what the mathematics are going to be between him and 20th in the points, but the 079, our season opener winner, Nate Balser, has gone to the garage area. He's going to be credited for 32nd position. So he is going to have a very interesting scenario going into the regular season finale next week. Whether it is a must-win or whether he could maybe point his way back into the top 20 in points, only time will tell, as you're about to see Grant Wesley get put a lap down here. He's been able to merge with Robbie Nisus and Bob Sire, but those drivers are all now about to go a lap down.
17 blew up. 17.
And the caution's out as Chris Emery hard into the wall along with the 17. And Chuck McClure, winner from last week, two-time winner on the season, points leader. Engine expires. A really strange area as well.
The 027 and the 88 are the first two cars one lap down.
Well, are they a lap down, though?
Yes, they are.
At the time the caution came out, were they ahead or behind the race leader?
No, they were behind the race leader. I saw it.
Okay. So very timely caution for them. We've seen mechanical failures here this season, but I'm trying to recall one taking place in the center of the corner. More often than not, if I remember correctly, most of them take place on the straightaway. Most notably, I think the majority of our mechanical failures have been over in the tri-oval on the front stretch. Chuck McClure, certainly this is not what he wanted to have happen here tonight, as he's already made the left-hand turn to the garage. Chris Emery, who was also collected up with nowhere to go, he's now already gone back to the infield also. This was up in the lead pack. Let's take another look at it here. Coming into turn 3, leaders are trying to prepare themselves for upcoming traffic. We'll see just one plume of smoke right there. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the reason you did not see smoke continue to pour from underneath that truck, drivers have learned that when the engine goes, if they throw in the clutch, there is a chance that the race will not have a caution come out. And I believe that when the engine erupted on the 17 truck, that he threw the clutch in, and that's why you didn't see the smoke continue to pour from behind his Chevrolet. Let's take another angle at it. Tough break there for Chris Emery. Just wrong place, wrong time, no warning. Jessica Shelton, watch the 48 do a great job here of avoiding. May have gotten a little contact from Emery when he came back down the track into Chuck McClure. Brian Lavelle also might have gotten a little bit of damage, but that could have very nearly been a number of drivers collected up, especially with oncoming traffic there as well. You had that second pack with Schilling, Seminara, Godfrey and company. Caution out for the third time here tonight. And a lot of drivers getting saved because of this yellow. Rodney Sullins and Jeremy Jeffries, they were able to stay on the lead lap. Grant Wesley and Robbie Nisus, they're going to get the lucky dogs. Bob Sire, I believe, was on the tail end of the lead lap when that caution came out, just ahead of the leaders. Only driver on the telemetry that I have right now that is going to potentially be a lap down is going to be Bob Dixon, and that's because he was 2 down when the caution came out. He'll be getting one of those laps back, it would appear, with the wave around. I think Wesley might be taking a wave around here too, but I'm not certain. Let's see, is he coming to pit road here? Yes, he is, which I would have been surprised if he didn't. You're going to get the free pass anyway. Why not come down, top off the fuel tank? I know you've just been to pit road about 3-4 laps ago, but if you're going to be put at the tail end of the field anyway by getting the lucky dog, why not get a little bit more advantage on fuel than the rest of the others?
Yeah. Can confirm that the 40 to Jessica Shelton, who was kind of bounced around like a ping pong ball there, has no damage.
I would assume probably the same for the 043 of Brian Lavelle, so good news for both of those drivers who were right in the middle of it. Like I said, we've had a couple of cautions here tonight that could have been a lot worse than they were. At the Jason Scheck blow over on the back straightaway. We had the Donnie Garrett connection problems there that was right in the middle of the field. Only one that was involved in that scary wreck up in turn 3, and then this most recent caution where really only 2 drivers for the most part got the brunt of it. The mechanical problem for Chuck McClure, and then the damage sustained by the 52 of Chris Emery. So 5 drivers at this point in time are out of the race. McClure, Emery, Balser, Martin, and Kyle Lawson. Should, when we go back green, have 29 drivers running, and 28 should be on the lead lap. That is, I believe, if Bob Dixon is not Lucky Dog eligible. So regardless of the fact that we ended up having this caution come out when it did, Michael, it still looks like the same scenario you were talking about prior to when we had these drivers on pit lane under the green flag conditions. Still 1 stop until the end of this race. But now with the caution coming out, it kind of widens the window a little bit of when you might want to make that final pit stop.
Well, it depends on how many more laps of cautions we have. Honestly, from with 41 right now at a 66, they would need probably to try to save, if possible, I want to say, what, 3 to 4 laps of gas?
Yes.
Something like that?
Yeah. But bear in mind, too, that's, you have to take into account that they've been running about maybe 3 to 5 green flag laps before that caution came out, between their pit stop and the caution flying.
That's true.
I don't think you can.
Nah, and if they can, it'll be real close.
Jason Scheck is going to be the one to lead us back to green. Grant Wesley going to line up, make that correction. Wrong 88 truck. I get those two confused because they've got the same colors. They've got an 88 on them, and they are the yellow and black scheme. That's Tim Nofsker on the outside of the front row. And Josh Metallic, Joe DeSpirito, Hank Middleton, the top 5. Bob Seminara now up to 6. That's the highest he's run so far tonight. Brian Schilling in 7th. Brian Lavelle, Mark Paglia, Jessica Shelton. That's going to be the top 10. You saw drivers going around, getting the lucky dog and their wave arounds. We'll update just exactly who is where, who's on the lead lap, who's fighting for the lucky dog spot here once they cross the line and we get things updated here. But we are going to just take a quick break here and be back for the green in just a moment, as they've got about half of this 2.66 mile superspeedway true traverse. So don't go anywhere. We're going to take you FRN side by side and be back in just a moment. Green flag set to come back out for the third time here tonight via restart. Big stack up on the inside line as they all tried to anticipate when the green flag was going to fly, and it just did not work out. The 1 backed into the 39, backed into the 2. And I don't think that that's going to help them at all in terms of momentum here for the back straightaway, unless Jason Scheck can get clear here off of turn 2, which he will. Now he's got to figure out, does he stay with the... Oh, what happened to the 39? Did he miss a shift? Josh Metallic has just gone around
lost
the back
fourth gear.
straightaway.
Lost 4th gear.
Oh, gosh. And that's race over practically for the 39. I mean, how do you run around in 3rd gear here at Talladega?
All right, that's the easy question, Seth. You don't.
Yeah, you saw right there that upshift, and that thing snapped around. Tough break there for Josh Metallic, who came into this race in the 3rd position in the point standings. Former champion from 2 seasons ago. One of those things, it's never over till it's over. You can look at drivers and where they're positioned 2, 3, 4 weeks prior to that final checkered flag in the regular season and think, oh yeah, they must be safe, right? And then you get a couple weeks down the line, all of a sudden they're in not perilous positions, but certainly in spots that they wouldn't necessarily want to be in with 1 race remaining on the season. Can confirm that the 143 of Bob Dixon, the 27 of Bob Sire, they are both still being scored 1 lap down, so they would be in the free pass positions as things run right now. And Metallic just came down pit lane. Last time by, he has made the left-hand turn to the garage, and he will finish in 29th.
There was somebody blinking. I'm not too sure entirely who that was.
Brian LaBelle, I believe, 043, that 4th truck in line. Top 5, single filed out, battled side by side for 6th. Shelton, the 48, Scheck in the 1. Jason Scheck started on the pole for this race. Got Brian Schilling right behind him, so you got a couple of throwbacks working nose to tail. You got Bobby Hamilton pushing Lake Speed. And not too far behind them on the inside line. Then you got Jeff Burton at 31, Sitco Dodge of Bernie Mobbs. We really haven't mentioned his name at all here tonight, which in some ways could be a good thing because he's at least stayed out of trouble. We haven't called his name in any of these big wrecks that we've had.
Very true. 20 laps to go this time by.
Milt Surratt, the True Value Chevy Silverado, is now up to the 6th position. Remember, Milt made it into the playoffs last year via points. Milt coming into tonight is 18th in the point standings. He is a total of roughly around 50 points, 54 points, I think to be exact, behind 10th in the standings. Now, one thing we haven't talked about yet, and I said we were going to at the top of the program, so I guess now's as good a time as any while I'm thinking of it, is the battle for the bracket series. The semifinals going on here tonight.
I think we just have too much action on the track.
Right? Too much to keep track of. Jeremy Jeffries, the number 1 seed, taking on the 7 seed, Brian Schilling. Jeremy Jeffries was involved, I believe, in the same wreck that Brian Schilling was back in the 2nd caution of the night. Right now, Brian, last time by, was scored in 10th. Jeremy not too far behind him in 14th, so they're right in the same vicinity. But I mentioned the fact that we'd be keeping as much of an eye on the winner's bracket side as we would on the loser's bracket side, because whoever of Jeffries and Schilling moves on tonight, they'll be taking on the winner of the loser's bracket. So look at, I think it's 2 or 3 bye weeks before we eventually get to that point. Drivers tonight that are fighting to make it into round 5 of the loser's bracket. Glenn Harris taking on Tim Knofsker. Bernie Mobbs against Rodney Sullins. Bobby Farrell will be moving on after Chuck McClure was his opponent and an engine failure has sent him to the garage area. And then Joe DeSpirito taking on Milt Surratt. Winner of Harris Nofsker Mob Sullins will be facing against Grant Wesley in 2 weeks' time. The winners between Despirito and Surratt will be taking on Bobby Farrell next week with a chance to face Donnie Garrett in 2 weeks' time.
Outside lane still a bit of an advantage there, but inside lane's coming slowly.
So these drivers, they still have one more pit stop to make, that much we know. And again, if you're just joining us, we had a cycle of green flag pit stops already, and at least 4 or 5 drivers were pegged for speeding. And some of the names that fell underneath that penalty included Rodney Sullins, Jeremy Jeffries, Grant Wesley, Bob Dixon. So if drivers of that type of experience of super speedway racing had issues on a pit stop that was setting up the money stop, just think of how nerve-wracking this upcoming final pit stop of the day might be for everyone in the field.
I completely agree.
Nofsker right now trying to become the second driver tonight to have led double-digit laps. Will be completing his 10th lap led if he indeed makes it around first to the start-finish line. Grant Wesley at this point in time has led the most laps, 17. 4 laps led for Jason Scheck, 3 for Joe Despirito. Josh Metallic, who's now back in the garage area, led 2 laps, as did David Lawson, and then 1 lap led apiece.
Boy. Shelton was kind of shoved down below the yellow line there. Almost became a huge wreck.
Yeah, they stacked up 3 wide behind her with Jeffries, Killing, and Scheck. 1 lap led apiece here tonight so far for Hank Middleton, Bob Sire, and Chris Emery. Boy, we've had drivers that have been very committed to that third line. Now Jeremy Jeffries, Rodney Sullins, Grant Wesley trying to see if they can make something happen. Seems like a lot of the times we look and it's Nofsker, Metallic, McClure, Wesley, always trying to get that third lane going. But it's interesting, when we talked with Metallic a couple of weeks ago, he says, you know, people have, oh, we got a wreck in the back. Ryan Lavelle, Ken Roberts, and Roberts hit the inside wall a ton. Is it gonna bring out a caution?
No.
No caution as both trucks came to rest below the yellow line. Has a bunch of damage on the front of that 055, and that was at the very end of this pack. Not sure exactly all what happened. Maybe bumper grab came into play, not certain. But no caution coming out at this point in time. But going back to Metallic in his interview from a couple of weeks ago, he said drivers have figured it out now in that inside and middle line of being able to lock bumpers and keep such momentum going in those 2 lanes. There's not an opportunity for that third lane to be able to gain any kind of advantage.
I'd say no, not at all.
There you see the skid marks from Lavelle and Roberts. The smoke just beginning to clear. They're past the start-finish line as Hank Middleton pulls alongside of Bob Seminara.
Oh, boy, they're switching lanes aggressively.
Paglia almost off the nose of that neon green number 6 of Wiley Coates. At this point in time, Michael, they would be able to make it the rest of the way on fuel. So are we seeing the aggression right now of drivers kind of figuring, you know, I'm going to make these moves at this point in time. Maybe there'll be a caution that will come out. I'll be able to make that final pit stop under caution conditions and maybe be able to then have myself set up for a good starting position for the final run to the finish. Is that why the moves are being made now?
I mean, honestly, it's really all about positioning yourself. And with those cars on the inside lane, they already know that they're going to be able to have that good shot to come in the pit road.
A lot of times we talk to drivers and they say, hey, those couple of laps before that final pit stop are very important. We position ourselves for that final pit stop. So going back to your point, might be exactly what these drivers are doing at this point in time. Getting that extra 1 or 2 spots could be the difference into where you're going to merge with the pack once we end up maybe getting a complete cycle of green flag pit stops, as Jason Scheck looked like he pulled up to the high side there through the tri-oval on purpose, and he is starting to drop to the back. So not certain what the strategy is there, unless maybe, like us, he's noticing the aggression up in this lead pack and saying, nope, I don't want any part of this. I want my truck still in one piece.
That's very possible. But he's going to risk losing the pack now.
Yeah, he is going to lose the pack. Definitely going to lose the draft, as he's not even going to latch on to the last truck in this group, and that's the lap machine, the 27 of Bob Sire.
Coming up to 10 laps to go.
Now, credit to Donnie Garrett. Right now, he is way off the pace, about 19, 20 seconds behind the leader, but he is still on the lead lap, and with the race of attrition we've had, what would have more than likely been a 34th place finishing position for him had he parked it after his wild ride on the first, or actually the second lap of the race. Right now running in 22nd. That's a net gain of 12 positions, 12 spots. That's huge. That's why you stick it out here in these races. Robbie Nisus in the 54. I did not see him get lapped under green here on the racetrack, so he must have made an unscheduled trip to pit road. He's now fallen a lap down. He's battling Bob Dixon and Bob Sire for one of the lucky dog positions, but right now he is the odd truck out, as both Dixon and Sire are in this lead pack, and Robbie Nisus is currently running by his lonesome.
10 laps to go. So one of these trucks are going to start to break off and come down pit road.
Well, I think we'll get an idea if we end up seeing these drivers in the middle line suddenly turn a hard left and go down to that yellow line here around the racetrack. Certainly a telltale sign when drivers are preparing for that easier access onto pit lane. So Tim Nofsker in the 088. He went to victory lane a couple of weeks ago, race 7. Joe DeSpirito right behind him. And
couple cars coming to pit road. Towards the rear.
Oh, Nofsker! Almost up into the slower machine of Terry Bombard. That
was close.
Wow.
Holy moly.
I mean, it's bad enough the 088 was trying to save it, but then you throw into the fact that there was a truck they were passing that he nearly went up into. Wow.
Well, trucks have made it down to the inside.
Almost wondering if maybe drivers might have been possibly bringing up their F5 on their menu, which is the tire section to uncheck tires. Saw the 712 was squarely in the tri-oval, the 24 got into the 088. I'm wondering if they were all just getting ready to, in preparation for their pit stops to uncheck the tires and just take fuel, and maybe in the process of doing that, made a little bit of contact from bumper to bumper.
I think that was just the 24, the Spirito. I think he just got a little too close to the back bumper of the 088.
Well, now DeSpirito, who I was going to mention just prior to that contact, some warp issues with the 4 Brian Schilling. He's getting up and out of the way. The Square D Dodge dropping back, but DeSpirito won very early on in the season, race 2. But right behind him, Bob Seminara, hungry to get back to victory lane. It's been a while for him, going back to around the midway portion of last season. Of course, last year's regular season champion as well, and was in the top 3 with a shot of winning last week, but came up just short as meeting time at the zoo, and everybody made it.
What it is now, can everyone make it to their pit stall? That's the question.
DeSpirito, Mobb, Seminara, Wesley, Shelton, Surratt, Middleton, David Lawson, Wiley Coate, all involved in that group. Made it safely on to pit lane. Fuel only for all these drivers, topping it off to make it the rest of the way. We now await the second group, which is pretty spaced out. I mean, there's what, 5, 6 drivers, I think, in this lead group that are left to come to pit road this time?
Just about.
Jeremy Jeffries now up to second, winner of race 4. Here they come on to pit lane. Jeff Crivello, Rodney Sullins, Mark Paglia, woo! Just skating past that blue inside wall. Glenn Harris in this lap as well, along with the lap truck of Bob Sire and also the lap truck of Terry Bombard. Like the Florida boys timed that pit stop really well. They all left together. Despirito, Seminara, and Mobs. They're all going to be nose to tail here in a pretty tight draft out of turn 4. So these might be the drivers we'll see cycle to first, second, and third. But I'm keeping an eye here on the telemetry, see if anybody's going to get hit with a black flag. Saw a near half dozen black flags handed out in the last round of green flag pit stops. As update on drivers here, looks like Tom Dixon, when he came to pit road, it was to head to the garage area. He's going to finish in 26th. And Ken Roberts, Brian Lavelle, their wreck just past the start-finish line that didn't bring out a caution. Both drivers also out of the race in 27th and 28th. And Bernie Mobs, who looks like he would have cycled out around the 3rd position, 31, has been hit with a speeding penalty.
Ouch, that is not good.
Man, that is a tough break, as he would have indeed cycled around to 3rd. There you see him heading back for pit road. Costly mistake here with coming to 5 to go. And now it is a 2-truck pack at the front, Despirito and Seminara.
With 1 lap car. Robbie
Jeremy-
Nisus.
You've got Jeremy Jeffries and Ronnie Sullins. They've got a big run here. Does Jeffries make a move? He's going to jump to the inside. Sullins going to go with him. They've got the momentum. Then you got another tandem behind them. That is Knopfsker and Middleton. Does not look like anybody else got hit with a speeding penalty. Looks like that is it. Bernie Mobs, the only one who had to dive onto pit lane. As, oh, big hit into the wall. Jeff Crivello off the nose of Jason Scheck. They both kept it pointed straight. We still stay under green. And we are now into the point of no return here as well, Michael. Next flag will end the race. So we'll give the disclaimer. If a caution comes out between now and the checkered flag, we will stay with the leaders, stay with the battle back to the line. We will go back and we will look at replays afterwards, but we are going to keep it here at the front of the field to see who's going to pick up the 9th checkered flag of the season. As right now you've got a winner, a non-winner, a winner, a non-winner, a winner. Right now your top 5 here as far as the stats for season 57.
It's going to make things so much interesting. I can't wait to watch this ending. I wonder who's going to pull out and try to make the pass for the win. The other pack, though, might be trying to close in.
Now we know that Rodney Sullins helped push Jeremy Jeffries up here to the front, but is he willing to stay and ride behind the 8 truck, or will he be making a move here, and when will he make that move? We know that Joe Despirito and Bob Seminara have been drafting partners for years, season upon season. If they make a move, no doubt that the 712 will go with the 24, but now they may not have a choice.
That other pack said it's coming, and it's in a hurry.
That pack's going to include Grant Wesley, Milt Surratt, Jessica Shelton, John Godfrey, David Lawson. Do they have enough time? They certainly don't want to see a caution, because that throws away all the momentum they've got at this point in time. 2 to go, this time by for Jeremy Jeffries. And we've seen this scenario before, Michael, where that second pack catches the first pack, and immediately pack number 1 has to go on defense and throw some aggressive blocks.
They were about between 5 to 6 mile per hour faster than this front pack. Oh, big wreck. Wreck in turn 2. Green
no
flag
caution,
is still out for the
still
moment.
Green. That's Donnie Garrett that's gone around the 77. Hopefully he keeps it down there. We still stay under the green flag, as here comes pack number 2, led by Grant Wesley in the 88.
I think we are going to stay green.
Can they get back to the start-finish line? They got to come through the tri-oval, one of the trickiest spots here of this racetrack. Seminara saw the run coming, jumped up the block, couldn't do it. Top 3, single file. Then Wesley with a big push by Milt Surratt. Here comes the 88 as we've got 2.66 miles left to go.
Pack's got a little more broken up here. I don't think it's going to happen.
Wesley's making a move to the outside of Sullins. Sullins goes to block, little contact. Now Jeffries has to block the run that Sullins had to the inside. Here comes Wesley. Big push by the 80 of Milt Surratt.
Oh, he's gonna get it right there. Look at him try to clear. They're gonna probably leave Jessica on the outside.
Shelton's got help from Godfrey. 3 wide for second off of turn 4. Wesley's gonna have to make that bumper really wide.
Oh,
Shelton's gonna get alongside. Oh, gets hooked into Wesley. Big wreck. Who gets through? They're trying to make it back in line. Paglia. Mark Paglia's gonna win. From 14th taking the white, the first to take the checkered. Mark Paglia kept his foot in it, and he's gonna win race number 9 on the season.
Trying to find the 56. He finished third.
Oh my gosh, Nofsker's gonna get second. Third is gonna go to Crivello. Fourth, Bobby Farrell.
Jessica got turned by somebody. I don't remember who. It was.
I think it was Godfrey in the 7-Eleven. Mark Paglia.
That's just a product of the 88.
Literally out of nowhere.
That was a product of just the 88 trying to come up to block, and then nobody lift. You're not going to lift. You're coming to the checkered flag.
Oh my gracious. The leaders all chain hooking each other, and you knew through the tri-oval it was just going to come down to who was in the right place at the right time. I thought at first it might be Nofsker, but then Paglia had a lot more momentum. And Mark Paglia, that Quality Care Ford F-Series.
I want to ride on board Mark Paglia. That was crazy.
I can't even remember the last time Mark Paglia had a victory here.
He wasn't even really in the main pack. He kept his foot in it, and he just went.
Paglia came into this race in the 22nd position. There's no doubt he's going to move into the top 20. He may have tonight just secured himself a spot in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
From 14th to 1st, and about what? 300 feet? Not even that?
Yeah, pretty much.
I think he wants to make absolutely certain he's won this race. He's gonna run a couple more extra laps here.
Yeah, I think he's more in shock. Seth, you got to go on and onboard with him. You got to watch how he.
We're gonna stay for his burnout first if he does a burnout.
All the cars flipping back here. Oh my lord, so many cars flipping and upside down.
Mark Paglia led 11 laps here tonight, which I believe is the most he's led this season. And just right place, right time. Now he's going to bring it onto the front straightaway, and he'll get to burn it down. Well, I'm not certain if I'm going to be able to, with the time allotted tonight, to be able to go back through the history books and see when the last time Mark Paglia went to victory lane here in the Tally Challenge. Might have to save that stat for next week. But I can tell you, it has been a long time since he has been able to do burnouts here on the Talladega front straightaway. And this may set the record for longest burnout on the season here too, Michael, because to your point, I think he was in shock making those extra laps there. I
believe you.
This is going to be, I think, a very exciting victory lane interview. I'll tell you what, though. And does a pretty nice burnout. That's wow. Oh, well, burnouts aren't done yet. We're doing some more. Why not? Let's go back now and let's look at everything that transpired there on that final lap. Boy, we're up here in the booth trying to catch our breath after what we just saw. I can only imagine what the drivers were.
I can say for sure that there are definitely some very upset people right now. But that's just part of the racing. I mean, you know, there's not really much you can do. You're jockeying for position coming to the checkered flag.
Here's a look at it. We're going to take it in slow motion off of turn 4. Shelton had a big run here through the tri-oval, got up alongside of Milt Surratt. There you see Wesley throw the block to the top side. With Shelton having to move up about a half groove, that misaligned the bumpers between herself and John Godfrey. Everybody just migrates up here to the outside wall, and there you see, bottom right, there's Mark Paglia getting by with Tim Nofsker as the field wrecks behind him. Godfrey up and over on his roof. Does that truck even make it back to the start-finish line? I don't think it did. It came up just shy of reaching the stripe. Still wrecking further back here. Rodney Sullins, Robbie Nices, Harris,
Dale Jarrett wins
Wesley.
at
I think
Talladega.
Wesley and Joe DeSpirito both cross the start-finish line in reverse.
Okay. And Dale Jarrett wins at Talladega.
Yeah, that Dale Jarrett throwback, that Ford Quality Cares Ford F-Series. We're going to show you where Paglia was. We're going to go on board with him. He is the last truck in this pack. And as you said, Michael, not really even in this pack. He's in the draft, but there's about a car length or truck length and a half between himself and Crivello, and then there's another truck length and a half between him and that main final portion of this pack. So really not even in the conversation for the win at this point.
Yeah.
But this is what happens from turn 4 to the trial. This is a case of mash the throttle and close your eyes.
Yeah, this is 12 all over again.
Just barely be able to get down the inside. Tim Nofsker be the first one back to the start-finish line. If Paglia's not there, Nofsker's won this race. He got on the brakes, was able to avoid the wreck, and he would have been the first one back to the start-finish line. But the fact that Paglia never checked up, that's how he was able to have the momentum to get back to the line first.
Paglia pulled the Seth Cole and never lifted.
No, exactly. At that point of the race, you can't lift.
Exactly.
It's the
I
white
agree.
flag. I understand that Nofsker lifted to not get involved in the wreck. If he hadn't lifted, he'd be involved in the wreck. But, I mean, if he had not lifted, I'd have completely understood.
I think, and that's the same thing with what started the wreck too, misaligned bumpers. You don't want to lift. You can't lift. You're like, what, 200 yards from the start-finish line.
If you lift, you're in essence saying, I don't want to win this race.
Pretty much.
If you lift, your momentum is gone. You're not going to get it back. Here's an aerial look.
He got so lucky with the hitbox that he didn't just bump Tim Nofsker.
Right. There's every way that where he hit, he could have very well been spinning around. Here's an aerial view off of 4 of what happened at the front of the field.
I was saying, I'm ready to talk to people here. I want to hear what they've got to say about that finish.
Look at all the trucks. Crivello slips by for 4th. Farrell gonna just sneak around the 18 of David Lawson for the 4th position, and Lawson slides backwards across the start-finish line to complete the top 5, as will be indicated here on your upcoming finishing results. Jeffries gets 6th, Shelton in 7th. Bear in mind that pretty much from 5th place on down, all these drivers wrecked or crawled across the start-finish line. Milt Surratt in 8th, Hank Middleton and Joe DeSpirito completing the top 10. Wesley 11th, Harris in 12th, Rodney Sullins in 13th, Cy Jones, Bob Seminara in 14th and 15th, and then Bernie Mobbs was the last driver to cross the line on the lead lap. The rest of these drivers all finishing a lap down or more, and then from Tom Dixon on down, these drivers did not reach the conclusion of this race. A lot of jostling in terms of positions here in the closing stage, and I think we're going to see a lot of jostling for position translated into the point standings heading into next week. But last year, Michael, it was Kelly Causey in the regular season finale that got that last-minute victory to secure himself a spot in the playoffs. Might have come 1 week early, but I think we got ourselves at least right now an underdog story of a driver getting a last-minute playoff position. That is provided Mark can keep that 28 in the top 20 in points next week.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I'm still like in shock of the finish that we just witnessed.
Let's find out if the drivers are still in shock of what just went down, as I was going to say he got his first podium finish of the season And oh, there he is. We do have him. Let's see if we can talk with the guy that did a great job getting through that wreck to bring it home in the third position. Let's talk with Jeff Crivello. Jeff, it's Michael and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I think I do.
Right.
We
Okay.
know.
I'm gonna interrupt Seth because
Go for it.
I'm too anxious here. I want to know what's going through your head right now after seeing that finish and you coming home with third place.
Well, when I saw him wrecking, I'm like, I don't know where the start finish line is. So I'm just trying to go straight, and Mark ended up flying by me, and I just had to stick in the gas when I could, and sometimes a blind squirrel finds a nut, you know?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we talk about it all the time. This series runs week after week at Talladega. The super speedways are always unpredictable. We got down there to the closing stages. We were wondering if they were going to get to the white flag. There were a couple of times we thought maybe the caution was going to fly, maybe end this race under caution, maybe give us a 1 or a 2 lap shootout. But once we took the white, did you have any plan in place if the leaders did wreck?
Try not to hit them on the way through.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, you're where I was, I had no plan. I figured, hey, if they wreck, maybe it would be like Moses parting the Red Sea, and I make it through.
Obviously, we know a little bit of luck comes into play with these super speedway races, but with this podium finish, your first here of the season, Jeff, this will maybe move you up, I believe. Yeah, it will move you at least up into the top 20 in the point stand. So with the momentum shifting in the right direction, what's the outlook heading into next week? Looks like you got a win to advance into the playoffs, but hey, we've already seen here a bit of a Cinderella story, and out of nowhere finish could happen next week as well.
Yeah, you never know. I says, I'll just race as best I can and see what happens.
Well, Jeff, congratulations on a job well done getting through the carnage there through the tri-oval to bring it home in P3. Before we let you go, we'll give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Big thanks to all the RTG guys and Josh for putting up the best series we got. I mean, even though we have some wrecks, but you got a lot of trucks, and just he does a hell of a job.
Jeff Crivello was 13th, taking the white flag. He crosses the line P3 here tonight for his first podium finish on the season. Congratulations, Jeff, and like I said, best of luck next week. Maybe we'll see another underdog story in back-to-back weeks.
All right, thank you guys. Good job.
Let's see if we can now dial up the driver that brings it home, P2, Tim Nofsker. Tim, Michael, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Hello, gentlemen.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. Normally, at the end of these races, it's a good thing to be up at the front of the pack. Here tonight kind of seemed like it was completely the opposite. We ended up seeing the last 3 trucks in that lead pack cross the line in first, second, and third. We know that you were out in front for a good portion of this race as well, but I mean, did you expect that this race was going to come down to that kind of a finish where it was basically literally a scramble to the start-finish line?
No clue whatsoever. When I came out off that pit stop, I had no idea that second group was going to catch us. And when I saw them motor by on the high side, I thought, where the hell did they come from? So yeah, my awareness wasn't on point tonight.
Yeah, it was a heck of a last lap wreck there. I'll come in the line. What was your plan, if anything? Were you just, because I saw you on the inside there, you had fallen back just a little bit when you saw the wreck start to happen. Did you just lift? Because we saw you lift. Were you thinking to just kind of keep it full, or were you just hoping to get through it first?
No, if you keep it full, you're just going to be part of the wreck, a wreck on a wreck. So, what I did is I stabbed the brakes and got it under control on the low side. I think I even kissed the grass a little bit. It was that check up and that braking, that let Mark by. And congratulations to him. He's so long overdue. He's had great runs, but yeah, he had a lot more momentum coming up out of the wreck there. So I thought I was going to get it, and then I saw his momentum, and I just tried to stay out of his way.
Now, Tim, obviously came into this race 10th in the point standings, already had that win from earlier on this season, so you were looking like you were in good shape. We know that there's a different points paying format for where you finish in the top 10 in the point standings, so certainly going to gain a couple of spots in that regard. But now, with having that win, with being up there in the top 10 in the point standings, looks like you're pretty secure to advance into the playoffs. So what is the aggression level for the 088 next week?
Well, I'd certainly like to have the bonus points for a win. So, it's kind of like you can do some things you wouldn't normally do. If I didn't have that win and I'm trying to lock myself in the points, I'd be a little bit more cautious. But, if I go for a move and it doesn't work out and I get wrecked, I mean, at least I know I'm still going to the playoffs. But yeah, just try to improve your position. That's going to be the mindset.
Now, speaking of improving position, we saw a number of drivers here tonight try and improve their position with the aggressiveness on pit road during the green flag cycles. And there were a lot of drivers that, we're probably going to be talking about as playoff contenders when the checkered flag waves next week that got hit with the speeding penalties. Is this a case of drivers now really feeling the pressure of, hey, I'm going to more than likely going to be in the postseason. I got to get every little inch that I can here, even when it comes down to green flag pit stops. And what does that mean when the playoffs arrive?
You're absolutely right. Those guys are really pushing hard, especially those who are on the cusp of being in or out. Where every point's going to matter. I mean, this thing's going to come down to the wire, and you have to get what you can get. You just have to. If you don't get on the pits fast and clean, you're going to get left behind.
Well, Tim, another great performance for you here tonight. Just continuing to secure yourself a spot in the playoffs, get yourself a good seed when those points are reformatted. And of course, some good momentum here to maybe be a multi-time winner by the time the regular season comes to a close. Before we let you go, though, we're going to let you have an opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Yeah, first of all, gonna give another shout out to Mark Paglia. What a great job he's been doing all season, and sometimes he gets down on himself, but he shouldn't. He's doing such a great job, and this win was long overdue for him. Of course, I'd like to thank you guys and welcome back, Michael. We missed you last week, but thank you guys for doing such a great job. As always, RTG, Bones and Prime, keep everything moving here, and we couldn't do it without them. Want to thank Josh and Wiley, my admin buddies. It's not an easy task to run the series, and it takes all hands on deck to make it work well. And I also have to thank my daughter and Dan Jackson and Chloe for watching me and rooting for me and saying not nice things about other drivers that almost wrecked me on my cell phone here. So yeah, without them, it wouldn't mean as much. So I love that they watch, and I love them. So that's it.
Well, Tim, congratulations once again on another solid outing. Second place here tonight. Looking forward to seeing what you're able to do in the regular season finale next week.
Great. Thanks, guys.
And let's see if we can go down to victory lane. I was able to find it, Michael. Mark Paglia's last win in this series goes all the way back to season 44, race 3, May 17th, 2018. It's been a
Wow.
long winless streak from Mark Paglia, and it is finally snapped here tonight with the victory in race 9 of season 57. Let's talk with him now. Mark, it's Michael and Seth up here in the booth. You got us?
I sure do, Seth. Michael,
Man,
how are you guys today?
I can
welcome
only
back to
imagine the
victory lane.
emotions that are going through your mind right now, man.
Holy crap. I'm telling you, man. I can't tell you. I was shaking going that last lap, and I just wanted to get into the pack and have a decent finish because
Well,
it seems like I'm always up front towards a lot of these races, and I just end up something bad happening. And I saw that wreck, and I said, well, I'm just going to let off just a little bit and see if there's a parting of the seas. And sure enough, I saw that spot, and I said, okay, I'm going to go, and caution to the wind type thing. And, I saw Tim there, and I thought if I can just get around Tim, I'll be in good shape. So yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was quite a last lap there, going from trying to catch that pack to catching it in the trioval to them all wrecking and then getting around them. Man, I tell you, how much was your heart racing in those last 50 yards?
Oh, I can't even tell you. I mean, I just saw cars going every which way. I saw the smoke, and I thought, well, I'm going to go low, and hopefully, the smoke will clear. Nobody will be there. And sure enough, somebody was listening to me, and as I said, the seas parted right there, and I just put my head down and went through it. And I said, holy cow, I can't believe it.
Obviously, an important victory, snapping a winless streak that stretches back 13 seasons, but maybe even more important, the timing of this win just before we're getting ready to set the playoff grid. Looking at the points, they've been updated. You jump from 22nd to 14th in points. This victory right now puts you in a playoff position. So I have to ask, in terms of big picture racing, what's the goal for next week now with the points as close as they are around that cut line area of 20th in the standings?
Well, first of all, you got to be careful. Sometimes you want to drive really cautious, and then when you drive cautious, you end up back in the pack, and bad things usually happen way back there early on in the race because everybody's pushing to get up front. But if you get too aggressive, then you start making mistakes. So I'm going to just see how it lays out where I start my qualifying. I'm going to try probably get in the top lane with Tim and with Chuck, because they're great drivers. And
Josh,
if I can hang with those guys, and they can, just kind of, let them be my blockers, and I'll be the runner behind them and just try to get through it.
Well, Mark, an incredible job for you here tonight. Obviously, big in regards to the fact that you ended up snapping that winless streak. Big in regards to the fact that you're able to, at this point in time, position yourself for a playoff position. We could obviously tell there with the congratulatory bumps, a popular victory here tonight. I think you might have set the record for the longest burnout on the season, which of course well
Yeah.
deserved in that case as well. But man, before we let you go, we're going to hand the mic over to you for some well deserved victory lane thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Well, I really want to thank you and Michael for all the great job you guys do every week. It just adds so much to the race every day, and it's great to watch it over again. And you guys just make such a fun time of watching. It's like a professional team right there. And Josh Metallic, he does a great job of running the program every Thursday night. He's got to review every race and try to be as fair as he can. And I know it takes a lot of time and effort, and all the admins, they do such a good job. Just quality people. I think one of the best group of racers out there. We're all very professional. There's not a whole lot of, foolishness going on. We're pretty serious, but then we kick back and help each other. So it's just a great group, and I want to thank everybody that races on Thursday nights with us.
Well, Mark Paglia, by the time the checkered flag waves next week, we could be calling him playoff contender Mark Paglia, as he picks up the victory here tonight in a thriller in those final few 100 yards to the start finish line. Mark, congratulations. Job well done. Best of luck next week.
Appreciate it, Seth. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, guys.
As Mark continues his celebration down there in victory lane.
Button at all.
No, not at all. I'll tell you what, Michael. There's a lot of storylines for next week. There's a lot of playoff positions that are still up for grabs. Granted, we know about maybe 6, 7, 8 drivers that are going to be locked in through victories, but there's a lot of spots as far as top 10, the point standings that are up for grabs. And even the regular season championship battle is wide open now with McClure's mechanical problem here tonight. Rodney Sullins is only 8 points back. Jeremy Jeffers is only 9 points back. That's practically nothing in terms of a gap when you consider that this series gets 30-plus drivers week after week after week. So we got that storyline. We've got the storyline here now with Mark Paglia up inside the top 15 in the point standings. He's currently in a playoff position. Jeff Crivello with his third-place performance here tonight. He jumped up 7 spots. He's 16th in points. A win next week, he could be in the playoff conversation. And right now, we've got drivers that are just trying to keep themselves up inside the top 10 to get playoff positions. Brian Schilling, Jessica Shelton, Bob Seminara, they're just inside, just outside. Donnie Garrett, Glenn Harris, Bernie Mobbs. A lot of different chess pieces can change in the span of the 66 laps next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And, even with the big wreck that happened, they still, a lot of those cars still finished top 10 that needed to finish. So it's going to make tomorrow. Yeah, it's going to make tomorrow. It's going to make next Thursday that much more interesting. And I really, really hope that I can be here to watch it.
So with Mark Paglia saying, he's going to try and obviously work with the drivers he's been comfortable working with this season, but try and not put himself in a perilous position. If you're a driver that is just above the cut line or just below the cut line, you adopt that same strategy? Do you kind of ride it out and wait to get aggressive until the very end? Do you maybe make sure you're a little bit conservative getting onto pit road? Don't risk throwing away your race with a black flag, because we saw a lot of speeding penalties handed out here tonight. Or do you basically go into the regular season finale with a go for broke attitude of, you know what? If I don't advance into the playoffs, at least I know I gave it my best effort.
Yeah, it's hard to be easy coming on the pit road because the way all these drivers come down, taking it easy is only going to cost you spots. So you're just going to have to practice, and hope that you can do it without getting wrecked or getting a penalty.
Well, a big congratulations as well to Jeremy Jeffries. He was the winner of the Jeffries versus Schilling battle on the winner's side of the bracket challenge. So he will be waiting a couple of weeks to find out who he'll be taking on in, I believe it's 2 weeks' time. Whoever's going to end up being the winner on the loser's side of the bracket. So he'll get to kick back, strategize, and wait for that to take place. But wow. Catch our breath here tonight, because we're going to need all the oxygen we can possibly muster with next week's regular season finale. We appreciate everyone that tuned in here tonight and hope that you will be with us for that finale. Should be a good one. We'll try and keep all the stories in line, try and figure all the points as they run, but it may just have to wait until the checkered flag waves, because there's a lot of positions that change hands every lap, every corner here at Talladega, and it is really close around that cut line area for who could advance in via points and who could not. And like we saw here tonight, we might see a last-minute winner clinch a playoff spot via a checkered flag. But Michael, it's been a great one here tonight. Called this the appetizer for the finale. If this is the appetizer, I can't wait for the main course. I appreciate you joining me in the booth.
Absolutely. It was fun. I can't wait to hopefully be able to do it again next week.
Once again, thanks to everyone that tuned in here tonight. Hope you guys join us next Thursday night. Regular season finale, playoff standings, playoff drivers, playoff grid gets put together when the checkered flag waves. The green flag, though, is going to fly next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For Michael Norman, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday night, folks. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's